I was done with the excuses that I was feeding myself and said, you know
Yeah.
what, like put up or shut up and get on the mat. And then once I got on the mat, I didn't want to stop because I was afraid if I stopped, then I would stop. So if I didn't come, even with injuries, I was like, because I'm 4 years into this thing, and every morning my lizard brain is telling me go back to bed.
Hi, and welcome back to the Still Rolling Jiu-Jitsu podcast. My name is Matthew Montgomery. Joining me today is RJ Lowery. He is one of my favorite training partners at Gracie, Ohio, in Westerville, Ohio. And he is a blue belt who's currently in his 50s. He has been training for a few years now. He also runs Expert Edge business coaching, and he's a great consultant. He has a background in sales and was also leadership within his church for years. And we'll get into a little bit of all of that. So, RJ, thanks for joining me.
Awesome. Great to be here. Thanks, Matt.
So, yeah. So let's start with, and I kind of start this way with most people is, like, what led you to get into jiu-jitsu? And and I'm not going to harp too much on your age, but we've gotten ourselves into a young man's game, and we've started relatively late.
And I'll actually give you a little clarification. So I just turned 60 over the summer, and I did start in a month. It'll be 4 years. Just turned 60, started at 57, and I guess that'd be 57.
Yeah.
I think the biggest reason for me, man, is I'd been on the mats for wrestling. I wasn't a lifetime wrestler, but I was a high school wrestler. I was decent. I definitely wasn't, going to states. I wasn't going to wrestle in college. I had thought about walking on at Ohio University and just realized that was probably not the best move for me. Get smacked. And that was the OU Bobcats, not Ohio State, even though I am a big Buckeye wrestling fan. And then I did karate. I did a couple different styles of karate for probably 5, maybe 6 years, and then took a hiatus and came back to it about 20 years later. But I think the biggest reason why I got back on the mats and why I'm still rolling is because I wanted something that was going to give me additional community from what I had. I was really focusing more on my fitness again. I also had fairly decent stand up from things that I'd done in the past. So I wanted to get some ground game other than like cradles and half Nelsons, which is what we did back in the late 70s and early 80s in wrestling.
Yeah.
And honestly, Jay Agazarm, who's a world champion, ADCC finalist and a good friend. He's been like a son to me for probably almost 20 years now. He and also his younger brother had been really leaning on me about getting into BJJ. And I put it off. And then I'm like, you know what? It's time. Let's get in there. Let's get smashed. And we are 4 years later, still getting smashed.
I think you're doing all right. Now, the first day you walked in, what was it like? Did you know anybody in the gym? Or were you kind of going in cold?
No, this is the original Gracie. So the one I've been there for 30 years. I did not know anybody when I walked in. Matter of fact, I went and watched once, and I saw a brown belt. He came over and stepped off the mat and came and greeted me, sat with me as I watched. I mean, how wimpy is that? I literally like sat and watched a class first. It's almost like somebody does with their kid, And I think it was just like, do I really want to make this decision? And it was like a 6 or 6:30 a.m. class. And then I just was like, man, dude, just face your fears. Yes, these guys are younger. Yes, these guys are in better shape, but we had lots of cops. We had lots of shredded young 20 something, 30 something guys. And here I was coming in my late 50s.
Yeah.
Do hard things that'll make you a harder man and, a better person for it.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of academic studies that have been released over the last few years that talk about the benefits. There's I'll reference them later, but basically it has to do with combat sports and mental health, and the how doing something difficult like jiu-jitsu provide a ton of mental benefits as well as the physical ones. Those are obvious, but that have to do with problem solving, resiliency, um, dealing with
100%.
stress and stress management. I'm sure that you feel that when you train, and you know, how do you see it, you know, kind of branch out into the rest of your life?
Yeah, I mean, that's like a 3 or 4 parter, but like, um, one of the reasons why another reason why I got into jits, and I don't tell a lot of people this, is I wanted I have at the time, I had 5 of my parents between my in-laws and a stepmom and an aunt that was like a mom, and I had 5 of my parents living as a late 50s dude. I had not experienced, um, death from a parent, for my I had a grandparent who helped raise me, and so that was late 90s, and other than that, I've been so blessed. One of the things I just said, I wanted to put myself, Tom Ryan, the Hall of Fame coach of Ohio State wrestling, has a book called Chosen Suffering. And I wanted to put myself in a position where I was choosing suffering so that when the unchosen suffering came, I was prepared for it. And I had been thinking about jits, and then we lost my wife's father. Um, so this is 4 years ago, right before Christmas. And that was the impetus where I just said, okay, that's it. I'm and he was probably the unhealthiest of the batch. So I knew, we kind of had feelings that that would be coming, but not as quickly as it did. But when it did, it gave me the impetus to change a number of things in my life, which we can unpack. Which was one of the others, was changing my role in the company that I was at, that I had ownership in, was leading a large organization, and was I just said, you know what, I haven't been focusing on my health, I haven't been there fully, coming out of COVID and all the time, effort, and energy that we put into it, taking care of our teams and so forth. And I just said, I'm going to make some changes. And so one of them was with my work situation, but the biggest one was I'm going to start focusing on my health more. And so that was that primary impetus to do that. And that first year, we I trained 5 days a week. So I was doing the Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7. I was doing the Tuesday, Thursday at 6:30. I mean, my
Yeah,
fingers jacked up. I was having injuries every month, and people were telling me I was overtraining. And I was like, you know what? I just wanted to suffer. There was like a stoicism. I'm like, I'd had some successes in other areas of my life. I needed to walk down to the end of the mat and be the lowest guy on the totem pole and get smashed by people younger, stronger, faster than me. And so I don't know, it was almost and it was a bit cathartic that I was just getting abused, and just kept making myself go back, even when I got injured, I still would go and I would sit on the edge of the mat and just listen, even though the
yeah,
ribs so that was
yeah.
answer 2 or 3 questions, but go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You know, I completely identify with. I guess, you know, Robin said, you know, learn to love it, learn to embrace the suck. Right. So when you're getting smashed, if you can learn to appreciate and get comfortable in that point in time where, you know, you either are being smashed or feel like you don't really have control, to be okay with that. It's a good life lesson, but also, you know, long term, it lets you get better at jujitsu because you don't panic when you're in a tight spot.
Yeah, and the tight spot, that's a double entendre, because in many cases it is
Yeah.
a tight spot.
Yeah.
And you and I've gone so many times that, that I've almost become too comfortable with it,
Hmm.
that I just button up, and my goal is just to not you can't pry my extremities away, you're gonna get frustrated, and at some point, somebody's gonna overextend themselves, get over their skis, and then RJ takes what little bit of energy that I've got, and Robin told me, he's like, "RJ, at 60, that's a good methodology, bro."
Yeah,
He's like,
it is.
I'm like, "Yeah, I
Well,
need to be more offensive, in the guard. I need to."
but you're technical enough that in that defensive shell game, you are technical enough that you can recognize when opportunity is there, and you can take advantage. And you've done it to me. I mean, you and I have trained enough that, you know, there's times where, you know, you'll sweep me, and I'll probably on my way over be like, damn it, you know, because I know I messed up, and you know,
Blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, because I know
yeah,
when I
you
go with you,
know,
you're technical, but I
you
appreciate
punish
that.
the impatience. So that's and honestly, I think I need to get better at that. Sometimes I will Mike Casey, when I rolled with him, he said stick with the thing you're working on. He goes, you bounce from one sub to another to another to another in about 30 seconds because it didn't work immediately. And so he said, if you would have stuck with that first thing you had, you probably would have got me. And he wasn't going hard, but you know, he was he was letting me work.
Well,
But
it's air quotes. You would have
yeah,
gotten me.
you would have got me. Yeah. By the way, if you're listening, you don't know who Mike Casey is. Eventually, I'm hoping to get him on the show. He's a 6th or 7th degree black belt under Helson. He also trains directly under Henzo Gracie, and
And has gotten
he's
some
he's a
good time.
well known guy.
Yeah, has gotten some good Hickson time too.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's under Hickson, not
yeah.
Enzo.
But I think he's trained with both. Yeah,
Yeah, he's been around since the early '90s, training and um, you know, I talked a little bit about it with Pedro, Mike Casey, in that interaction that he had with Pedro and Rob and everything through that whole weekend. He asked more questions during seminar than anybody else in the room, and it was never a thing where he was asking a question to tell everybody how much he knew. And a lot of
oh, yeah,
people do that. They
for sure.
will, you know,
No shit.
they'll ask a question, no, then they already have their answer ready to, you know, it's already queued up. And he was asking from like genuine curiosity every time, wanting to know what other people thought. And
Great.
it stuck out to me immediately. So you were training 5 days a week, starting out at 57. What kind of shape were you in? Were you in any kind of shape at all coming
I
in?
was not in the best of shape. I was probably 30, maybe 35 pounds heavier than I am now. I'm a stocky dude. So I was definitely heavier. I've got some before pictures and so forth that are scary. I mean, honestly, I think the best way to say it is I was fat and happy. Like I was just, you know, doing well in business, and was doing well, and grandkids, and just had our second granddaughter had just been born, and my second daughter was about to get married, and it was the the third one, was dating somebody. So it was like I just work work going well. There was just like, if you look at the spokes of life and the circle of life, I just had a lot of things. I would have put myself at kind of eights, maybe even some nines, and I just let fitness go. And I would have these little short periods, and I knew it. And I am coaching and consulting people on high performance, and you know, and leading large organizations and leading leaders of people, and talking about sharpening the axe. And I just would avoid the things related to fitness, and I would hit everything else. But it was a glaring hole in my game, so to speak, that I couldn't speak to that. And I had had it in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that guy, but we had a lot of us have had that in the past, but then life gets in the way, or we allow life to get in the way is probably a better way to look at it. And, but I was just done. I was done with the excuses that I was feeding myself, and said, you know
Yeah.
what, like, put up or shut up and get on the mat. And then once I got on the mat, I didn't want to stop because I was afraid if I stopped, then I would stop. So if I didn't come, even with injuries, I was like, because I'm 4 years into this thing, and every morning my lizard brain is telling me, go back to bed. And
Yeah.
I've had people say that it gets easier. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it does, but it doesn't really.
Well, you're doing all right. I have another training partner who started in his 50s, and he was a guy that if he does something, he is going to do it all the way, no matter what it is. Like with a fanatical enthusiasm. So this guy was training 5 days a week, sometimes 2 a days, but he was also lifting and running on those same days. Like he was basically doing 2 a day workouts in his 50s. Um, and you know, I had multiple conversations with him. I said, dude, you were going to overtrain, you were going to get injured. And sure enough, eventually he did. He tore his shoulder up and had to have surgery. And then now he doesn't train jujitsu. So, you know, recovery is it's a critical piece. And it's a bummer because, um, when he first said he was going to have surgery and he had kind of gone down that road, stopped training because he was hurt. He said he was going to come back. He said he was going to come back. And then while he was gone, he became hyper fixated on running. And now he's running a marathon later this year. But I think he may
Gotcha.
have gotten hurt again running. Um,
Yeah.
Something else because he just will not stop. Um, so
Well, I think that speaks to the decision I had to make as I was having those injuries. My fingers were killing me because I was in the gi 90% of the time. I was holding on for dear life because I was a rookie, white belt. And so I
yeah,
just had to hold on. And man, my fingers were killing me all day and getting stoved and all of that. And about 2.5 years ago was when so Dr. Dan Fosselman, who is my primary care physician, actually a number of folks that roll in Central Ohio are utilizing him. And he told me, I guess hearing it from a doctor kind of validated it. What I'd heard other people say is that I was overtraining. And he said, you'd be really good to supplement with weight training and strength training. And that's when I made the shift. And I know you've had Mitch on the call. And so shifting to Mitch on Tuesdays and Thursdays and spending a good solid hour of one day of uppers, one day of lowers, and then trying to do some things on the weekend or good walks and things like that. I think that's really, really helped my game because I can button up even tighter now. And the things that we're doing is a lot of stuff that's related to pulling and pushing. And so I'm not doing anything I'm not doing a lot of bicep stuff. I don't really care about that. It's not like I'm 20 anymore. I'm lots of tries, lots of upper body, lots of hips, lots of squats, you know, and I just put myself in his hands and say, all right, dude, whatever you tell me to do. So I've been kind of helping him on the coaching side of things with his business. And he's
yeah.
been, he's been a real strength and source for me on the fitness side.
And this is not a sideways jujitsu backhanded compliment. You are as strong as definitely any 60-year-old I've ever trained with. You are legit just adult male strong. Um, you're hard to deal with from that standpoint. And
I'll say
uh,
thank you. It's,
yeah, I mean,
it's been a lot. It's this whole still rolling. It's been 2.5 years of I don't miss unless I'm on vacation. And I gave myself some mulligans early on, and then I just really started even taking away the mulligans. I have very few, both in jits and in training, where I would have stayed home. And hopefully this, for somebody else, maybe needs to hear this. I just started lowering the amount of times I allowed myself a mulligan. I allowed myself like last night we had a late game, Jackets game. It went into overtime, went into shootout. I didn't get to bed till midnight. And I went to bed thinking, okay, this might be a good one. You're going to get a short sleep. And nope, got up and said, nope, you got to do it. And
yeah,
so maybe in that sense, it is getting a little easier because I don't give myself as much leniency anymore.
I need to take that direction. Does Dr. Fosselman, does he train?
Yeah, he's a black belt. He just got his
Was
black
he?
belt. Yeah, he's 36 or 7. He's got 7 board certifications. Yes, I am shouting him out on your
Yeah. Oh, I don't
your
mind. Where's his practice?
yeah, it's called Professional Integrative Care, and it's Dr. Dan Fossman. He's an officer in the military as well. And right now he's got a location in Pickerington, location in Powell, but he just bought a building in Westerville. But it's technically kind of Polaris area, but it is his building. So I think in the next 9 months he'll be moving into that.
Okay.
But
I'm
he's
looking for a new primary care doctor. So I have the
he's
VA, but I've got, I want civilian insurance, and the idea of talking to a doctor about jujitsu that actually knows what the heck I'm talking about is,
oh, by the way, he's
uh,
an officer in the military, and oh, by the
yeah.
way, yeah, he's faith-based, foundational, solid virtue kind of guy.
Okay.
Also, 7 board certifications. I don't know if there's anybody else that's got the same ones, from anti-aging to sports medicine to, I mean, yeah,
Where
he's
does he
off the
train?
chart. He's been Gracie, Ohio. That's where I first met him,
Okay.
and he's now Super Systems.
Okay. Yeah. I
He's
don't
part of.
know.
He goes at 6 a.m. on Sundays that a lot of guys go to.
Yeah, I love how much cross training super system in Gracie, Ohio. We've got some, cats and dogs kind of going both directions there.
Lots of
So
respect.
so with that weight training that you've integrated, you're feeling physically much better than when you're going 5 days a week, just
Yeah,
jujitsu.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that made a huge difference.
Okay. I'm asking because I kind of need to do the same. I did not go Monday, uh, because right now I've got a little bit of a neck injury and I'm kind of letting it rest up. I'll probably go in tomorrow morning. I don't know if I'll roll. But started coming on, kind of mid last week, and by Friday, we had that We to Five Foundation open mat, and I said I wasn't even going to roll because my neck was bound up, and I still did anyway because I can't help myself. But uh, yeah, I need to get it figured out. But I need to implement some other training to help my body um, stay pliable. um,
I know a guy.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know,
Mitch.
yeah. And I would
Yeah.
even say I think he's looking at opening up my slots. I'm totally have said it to him for additional revenue stream was open up our slot and turn my Tuesday, Thursday, 7 a.m. into a group training that is for older guys, jujitsu based, that sort of things.
Okay.
Tuesdays and
Interesting.
Thursdays, 7 o'clock.
Okay. And Mitch is fantastic. I would trust him to work out underneath him. I've got a tonal and a Peloton stuff. I should be using it. I just don't, and I need to be better at it. Um so what do you do outside of those kinds of things to manage, are you following special diet, or are you just kind of living comfortable?
It's been baby steps. I've been each of these things again. So speaking directly to somebody who's maybe not doing any of it, that was me 4 years ago. So speaking to anybody that's hearing this, that's in that situation, is I just kept stacking. I basically took the way that I found success in my career, um, and I just applied it here and just said, stop allowing yourself to not apply it here. Almost like I wanted one area of my life that I was allowed to just suck at. And that was really honestly my fitness part of my life. And it was just stupid because I want to be around. I want to live longer like these other things. If anything,
Yeah.
will die sooner, especially if the stress is very high and so forth. So I'd rather have, the acute pain, as opposed to the chronic pain. And so that's where uh, that's why I'm lifting a lot more and training a lot more. But my primary things I have stacked on in the last 4 years now is I'm at least 3 of these a day, which I think is 30. Oh yeah, and you know some of those folks. So there's Valenci, there's
Yeah.
Steve Fordensky, Catharo out in Denver. If anybody's training out there, that guy's an absolute boss. We need to get him on your
Okay.
podcast. Obviously, Gracie, Ohio, Farragut, Fit Club.
Nice.
I'm at least 3 waters a day with electrolytes and magnesium, potassium, the whole element thing. I'm really been focusing probably the last 6 months on protein. So I'm at least 150 grams. I'm shooting for 200. So I want to be kind of zero point 0.8 of my weight is what I'm really trying to get to. I actually just found out that ChatGPT can help me with that now. So I'm now taking pictures of my food and just uploading it straight into my business account. And I've told her I want her to keep track of it. I want it to keep track of it for me and create a table and a schedule. Oh yeah, looking at it right now with the pictures that I've uploaded today, and that's just so amazing. Like I feel like these other app companies are really going to be struggling, being that chat can do that. But I'm at 97 right now before dinner. So
So you're
um,
just taking a picture of your
literally take
plate and
of
putting
my
it into regular like Chat GPT 5.1,
yeah
and
yeah
it's saying this is what you ate.
yeah. Oh, I made sure I told it my goals, and I said I'd like it to start recording it. Obviously, save this stuff to memory, and I'm going to just start uploading every plate, and every now and then it'll give a couple questions back to say, hey, I can't tell what that is, but in most cases, it's like, oh, you got corn and asparagus and this, that, and the other. And, it looks like you've got about 7 ounces of chicken there, and cooked down, that's 80% of what the protein count would have been. I mean, it's just freaky, man. It is freaky.
It isn't it, especially like you saw probably the Tesla robot that uh they were showing off. I mean, it's gonna have some version of a GPT running it, and um
But yeah, just completing that question though, man. Yeah, so I stacked the water and I stacked the supplements. So I'm yeah, just all the kind of standard stuff that guys are taking: collagen, creatine, fish oil, um, multivitamin AM and PM that Dr. Dan had recommended, L-theanine, um, vitamin D3K2. But yep, and feel like there's something I'm missing. But so I stacked that on, and then I just started really getting. I just made that a part of the habit. So the habit stacking, if you think of Atomic Habits, and then most recently was the protein. I've got that kind of dialed in now, and I've got it being counted for me. And so I'll get 50 more grams for dinner, and then I'll probably have some of my Ninja Creamy protein ice cream, and that'll give me another 25 to 30 as I'm watching my show tonight. Connie and I will watch our show, and we'll do that. But and then the latest thing that I'm trying to dial in, and I'm probably going to get the Aura Ring to do it, but is the sleep, because as we looked at my bloods, which I'm doing every 90 days with them, I'm great in every category. The only three categories that are leaning towards high are will 100% be lowered by additional sleep. So I was 5.5 to 6. I got to 6 to 6.5. I've been about 6.5 to 7. Is what I've been. I just keep stacking it, trying to get higher and higher and figure out how to do it. I'm really looking at 2006. Can I, or 26? Can I get to 7.5 to 8? I'm just really, I need that recovery. Oh, and the other stacking was I did sauna twice a week, and now I do it 5 times a week.
wow. So so when I first asked the question, you were like, yeah, I'm not much, and then you just told me how dialed in you've got your diet, how dialed in you have sauna, your workouts, your supplements. I mean, the whole thing. Have you always been this, that type of person? That what led you, led you into like professional success, or
I don't know, because I'm also consistently in that frame of mind that I'm not doing enough. And it's this fine line between having a peace that passes all understanding, which spiritually, which is the way I believe, is having a peace that passes all understanding. Everything is, it's all good, but then yet also having this, I don't want to say anxiousness, but this nagging feeling that I'm not doing enough. And maybe that's unpacking all the way back to stuff when I was a kid, and lots of divorces in the family and some things that went on. I'm sure it probably has to do with that. But yeah, the biggest thing Dr. Dan has said to me every 90 days, he just looks me in the eyes and says, RJ, keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, I know, but what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And he's
yeah,
like, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, but I want to know the next thing, man. I'm a type A. And I know there's probably people listening that are that way too. It's like, so I still like, I didn't realize that how much I rattled off. It was just like, I still feel like I'm failing.
yeah, and that's wild. Knowing you a little bit, um, just from an on the mat standpoint, you're doing great. Um, now we can get into it. We don't have to, but you mentioned, growing up,
Everything,
maybe.
I told everything's
All
open.
right. So how did tell me a little bit about that childhood and growing up, and how do you think it shaped you?
Um, well, I'm sure there's people that have gone through a lot harder things. So I want to be very clear. Somebody may hear this, and I'm not going to try and exaggerate anything either. I know there's times where people will exaggerate their stories so they get more attention out of it. But I think, my mom and my dad, about 3 years apart. My mom was 17, my dad was 20. They worked at the Columbus Zoo, and my mom had kind of been around the block at 17. She was Italian from, the Italian part of Columbus, and my dad was more goody two shoes. from Grandview Heights, Columbus, and they ended up connecting. Oops, little Ronnie came along, and he was getting ready to take off to Vietnam. And so, not to judge anybody else, but I think they made the right choice in deciding to have that kid. He was gone when I was born, came back, basically to meet me at a year old. My mom moved in with my grandmother. My grandmother was a saint. So I did have that um, foundation of her there. But shortly after he came back from the war, they moved to Alabama. The marriage didn't last because she was so young. So I think by the time she was 19 or 20, she just dipped from Alabama and said, I'm out. And she would say, and she's still living, she would say he didn't do anything. But she was just a young kid and just didn't,
How old was she when she got pregnant with
eight,
you?
17 when she was pregnant, 18 when she had me. So I think
Yeah.
at 20, 21, and she just dipped out of the relationship, headed back home. And so then he's down there working as an assistant curator at a zoo, and was, now he's got a kid, nobody to take care of the kid. So he ends up having to give up his position and come back home, move in with his mom, my grandmother. And my grandma and grandpa were awesome people, but they shortly got divorced. So that's kind of divorce number two. And grandma had a wonderful influence on me. She was a Christian woman. She was stoic German. Um, I think I never really heard, I love you. I never really heard you're doing great. I never really heard I'm proud of you. I think that is probably some of the things that has stemmed to me desiring those things. But did she love me? Was she proud of me? Yeah, all those things. And my dad's actually the same way. It's just, I went, you know, 35 or 40 years before I convinced my dad to say I love you back, because men that are in the military, and he was 32 years in the military, don't say I love you to each other. That's, that his generation, right? And by the way,
Yeah.
he's 83, still living. Um, then my mom got married a second time, had a son, dipped out on that relationship within a couple years. That son turned 16 and then loaded the gun that his dad shot himself with. And again, I wasn't living there. It wasn't technically my stepdad, but it was my brother's dad and my mom's second
Yeah.
husband. But I was aware of it and was around it, sort of thing. Certainly my brother, half brother, is reaping the repercussions of that now, even at 53 years old. And I won't get into his story. That's his story to tell, but there's just a lot there. And so loving to death, want a relationship with him. But we're very different. And I think he feels uncomfortable because of things he's done in his past. And I try and have love and grace in the midst of our relationship, but there's just a lot there for him to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, all that to say, so I was the guy. One of my favorite questions on podcasts is, what guy were you in high school? So I was the
Okay.
guy that in my sixth grade year, I moved, so fifth grade, you're starting to get kind of popular. You're starting to play sports. I was doing okay there, hanging with the right kind of people. Sixth grade, they redistricted. I went to a different school, and I was now aligned with the other elementary, which is all our enemies, the two
Yeah.
elementaries. And again, this is 12-year-old. So like, how serious can it be? But in 75, 77, whatever. But I mean, I literally at 12 started doing a lot of really stupid stuff, started smoking, I got in with the wrong people. Um, thank goodness, seventh, eighth grade year, we all pulled back together, all the schools. So I kind of got my other friends back. I started rebounding from that, was playing sports every season. I was also a musical guy. So I was able to, I did stuff in the band, I was a drummer, played other instruments and things. Dad moved again. So I was the new kid again. So freshman year, I moved out to Pickerington. That's back when it was a little tiny farm town. Uh,
Yeah.
and in 1979, but I went into that freshman year as the new kid, saying, I'm going to do it differently this time. And I really was much more intentional. And yeah, and I ended up being the guy in high school, just was friends with everybody, had decent grades, like a 3.0, basically. Was in sports every season. Actually was in, played drums in the band, led our drum section to winning awards in the percussion and stuff like that. I was in theater. I got into theater. I wonder why the guy wants to hear applause. And I
Yeah.
got in theater and started getting applause. I went into wrestling because, dude, if I got my hand raised, like
You're the man.
I did my square, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted the team to win, but I needed to take care of my square. And again, I sucked at it in the beginning. Sounds familiar. But by the time I got done, I was, I was holding my own and was winning a lot more matches than I was losing, just not competitive at a state level sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, there was a lot there. Got to OU, met my wife now, who girlfriend then, met her my freshman year, started dating our sophomore year, and we've been dating for 41 years, and we've been married this March 35 years.
It's outstanding.
Yep. And there's a lot of things that happened from that point on that kind of turned the business combustion engine on. But I'll pause for any, because I know I went long there.
Some of the things you said. So first off, you said that your problems are not whatever. I almost interrupted you, and your problems are your problems, and so therefore they're just as important as anybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and we have some similarities in our background. From my mother got pregnant when she was 17, and they didn't stick together either, and and this that can go off on a whole other rail. But and I've told you a little bit about that stuff. But being a kid that bounced around between schools and having grandparents in your life who were at least positive people to help be examples. So there's a lot of pieces that uh, I can certainly identify with. Now, where some of the differences came is you were a good student by high school and in those things. I also did theater. I also played sports, football, basketball, baseball. Um, uh, and maybe some of it was looking for that approval. I will say that my mother was always very, always giving, love and, affection. However, I think I had a chip on my shoulder where I felt like, you know, wasn't good enough. Um, so I had to go play. Not only did I play sports, I played positions where you're, quote unquote on stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was a quarterback in high school. I was a catcher, baseball, so that I
Mm-hmm.
could be involved in every play. Um, and obviously the theater and being on stage and those things. I'm wondering, and that's probably what put me in the Marine Corps is that chip on my shoulder, wanting to prove my manhood in some kind of a way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I kind of learned a little bit more about discipline and things like that. Um, so you made it through your college years. You got into business. What kind of business? Because you're a business coach, and I was going to ask, how do you become a business coach? Like, what leads into like, what
Yeah.
qualifies that? Yeah,
Yeah. I think so. First thing is, I like to tell people when I started selling, all the way back to high school, I loved, sell cheese and sausage, and you win these things, or sell, pies, or we were always selling for fundraising, right? And then I got into college and I was selling plasma because I needed money.
okay,
Like, so I'm literally selling my blood.
yeah,
Uh, for anybody that's, I think mostly older people listen to this, younger people, I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but it was a thing back then. It was good money. It was drinking money. It was, it was like it could get you by. I sold spring break trips, which was a colossal failure that I turned into an incredible win. That's a whole nother story for another time. Took my girlfriend at the time on it and some friends, probably like 15 people. And the bus driver showed up and the coach, and he was drunk and they had no seats and still wanted my 15 people to get on the bus. That was unacceptable to me. Um,
yeah.
Verifiably so. And I ended up getting a credit card and told them that I would rent some vans, and I got the owner's credit card and ended up getting conversion vans, and they were like rocking. And we spent so much money on it. And the bottom line is we got it charged. We put it down. We made it down. And he was like, you need to take those right back. And we're like, no, we're here, dude. Like so that's the short version, but that turned into fun. But really where I kind of got my big break was I was supposed to go to Japan and teach English. I was an international business and marketing double major. I was a minor in Japanese. And that's when I was training karate. So Ishanryu, I had some Shorin-ryu, some Shotokan. And the week before I was supposed to go to Japan, my teaching English gig fell through. Oh, by the way, I was going through Hell Week at my fraternity as a Sigma Chi. So I'm going through Hell Week. My summer gig has just dropped on me. It's out, and I was pretty proud of that. I was able to tell all my buddies what I was doing. It seemed really cool, instead of
Yeah.
working as a guard in the past where I would spin the whistle this way in my sunglasses and then I would spin it that way. I'm talking about the spin the
Yeah.
whistle.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway, and so I was ready to do something real with my life. And my big brother in the fraternity, who actually got me into cheerleading at Ohio University, got me to come to the fraternity house. He's like, dude, you need to check out this selling books thing. And he had made like 5,000 in the summer of 85. And he was like, I think you would kill it. I'm like, dude, I'm going to Japan, I'm teaching English. I have no desire to do something as menial and trivial as that and pedestrian as that. I'm going to teach English in Japan. And then it fell through. So guess what? He's like, dude, I'm getting you an interview. And,
Yeah.
and of course, it was like, he's like, I'm going to do my best. Like, we're getting ready to leave in a week. I don't know if I could do anything for you. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And ended up selling books door to door, 80 hours a week, away from home, straight commission, paying my own expenses, living with a family I had to find by myself in Ponca City, Oklahoma. And in the summer of 86, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. It was 100 degrees. And I'm literally just my roommate, my manager would drop me off at about 7:40 each morning. And I wouldn't see him until about 9:30 at night. I had no car. And it was a good company, reputable company, but it's just I was what we call a walker. So I just
Wow.
carried my bag and I walked. And I cried more as a 20-year-old kid that I thought was a stud. I cried being away from my girlfriend, my family. I was hot. I was begging to get indoors because it was so hot and I wanted some food or whatever. But at the end of the summer, 8 weeks later, I had made 8 grand. And it was like, wow, that was the first thing I've ever done. But I got some college credit. It's called the Southwestern Advantage. If anybody wants to send their kids, it's actually an incredible organization. And I ended up doing it 4 more summers to pay my whole way through school, including my 5th year. And then I ended up taking out teams of people to do it. So I took 14 the next summer, 17 the next summer. By the time my last summer that I went, I had 50 in my organization, had 9 leaders and 50 in the organization from a number of universities, and made it onto what's called the Wall of Greats and won a bunch of awards. And so I think my last summer I made 27,000 in like 9 weeks, 10 weeks.
Hmm.
So that was kind of like it was the hardest thing in the world, but again, it's that chosen suffering. Like every day that I was going out, I would rather have gone home and to be with my girlfriend and my family, but I forced myself to do it. And I just knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel as I was going to be paying for my college. I was going to be becoming a different human being and a businessman. And then that parlayed me into my next chapter, which was 20 years, but I'll pause there before I share that. But hardest thing in the world, but, would highly recommend it.
I mean, so that's one of the, I think that when you do hard things, while you're in it, and getting back to embracing the suck, the for me, similar age, I was in the Marine Corps and doing hard things, and it sucked. God, it sucked so bad, so much. But now it's like, every jarhead looks back and goes, that was like the time of my life, and I don't think it would be looked back in the same kind of reverence about what a great, best time of my life if it wasn't so hard.
For sure.
Um, so, uh, so
Yeah,
door to door book sales.
we have a common bond. Anybody we call it, we're a bookman. We were
Yeah.
girls and bookmen, and anybody I can run it. And I would be out in the field and I'd run into somebody because the company had been around since the Civil War.
If
So
you're
they were
selling
selling
walks, you could have been a Walkman. Just saying. Sorry.
bad jokes for days.
Yeah, I know. I
Uh,
know. It's me.
but no, I'm the same way. My kids totally make fun of me. But no, I would be out knocking on doors and then I'd run into like a 70-year-old guy who he had sold and I'm like 20. And then all of a sudden it was like, come on in. Do you want some water? Can I
Yeah.
get you something? And hey, I want to get something for my grandkids. And that would give me the motivation to keep going. And now I'm that guy that when people run into me and I find out that they're selling with Southwestern, then I'm, come on in. I've
What kind of
done,
books are they? Are they
yeah, they were
religious books?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, they started out as a Bible company and
Okay.
then they moved into educational products. So it was, we sold what was called the student handbooks and we sold medical books. Um, so I had my favorite set. I called it the 6-pack was student handbook 1, 2, and 3. Like 1 was for elementary, 2 was kind of like junior high and high school. 3 was like high school into college or out of school. 4 was a layman's Bible encyclopedia. So you would have that rounded out with a little spiritual. And then 5 and 6 were the 2 medical books. So it was a 6-pack. That 6-pack was $199 and I made 30% commission off of that.
Okay.
So, if you start doing the math, you could make some pretty good money. But it's so funny when they started, they sold Bibles door to door. The people would walk, and as it was starting to get dark, like it is now, that was the house that you would stay at because usually people would say, "You're a young college kid and you're out." So they'd say, "What you want to bunk down? We'll give you the barn or we'll give you the extra bedroom or whatever. Our son just left for the war. I don't know, whatever it was."
Wow.
And so yeah, they were mostly educational books, but they did have that faith element. And I think that for me, I started meeting people of faith that I respected because I had met a lot of people of faith that were not living a life of excellence. And so I was like, I've been poor already. Like we're really good. I've been
Yeah.
really like the biggest house that we lived in. And my wife actually, it's about the same. Was about 1,100 square feet and and we've now had homes where the basement was bigger than that. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that that's kind of where we came from, and it was great. I mean, I didn't really think too much about it. I mean, I knew about rich people, but I think that's one of the things when I was selling books is I got to see really successful, wealthy people, and and I got to be mentored within that company by really successful people who also were married and they had a faith life that was real and it was something that I wanted. Um, and that's so after 5 summers of that and leading a lot of like I still have people I'm in contact with that were on my teams back then. Same thing, kind of like the military. I mean, we weren't certainly. I give you all the respect in the world. And by the way, I have a donation for We Defy. I won't announce it on this podcast, but
Thank you.
hey, yeah, absolutely. Since I couldn't make it Friday night, I was going to do it anyway, but especially since I couldn't make it Friday night.
All right, you heard it here,
And
folks. I'll be expecting it soon. I'm just kidding.
absolutely. And the and then the next thing is was looking for what was my next play. Now I'm because I stayed with the company like another year after school, and I was like, okay, what's my thing? And I interviewed with companies back in 1990, and they were like, well, the average kid makes about $18,000 coming out of school in 1990. I said, well, I made 27 in 3 months, so that's not going to work for me. And so I was
Right.
kind of cocky. I started looking at things, and everybody that I interviewed with, I'm like, can I make 50 in my first year, and can I make 100 within a couple years? And this is in 1990. And most people said, I've been here 10 years. I don't make that kind of money. Like the chances are slim. I'm like, okay, well then I've gotten all I need to hear. Thanks so
Right.
much.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this crazy company that was actually founded by a crazy bookman called Tom James Company, which is a high-end custom clothing company. It started in 66 and in 1990. I interviewed with them. I said, can I make 50 grand in my first year? They said, absolutely. I said, can I make 100 grand within a couple years? They said, absolutely. And I said, okay, what are we selling? And they're like, we sell custom clothing to, busy, successful professionals. And I'm like, I wasn't like a fashion plate. I didn't care about clothes, but I loved the opportunity that I had to make good money. And secondly, I'm like, wait a second. And all I'm doing is calling on wealthy, professional, successful. So back to your question, how did I become a business coach? Well, those five, those summer jobs, I was running my own company doing that. And I had a lawn company and things like that too. But I mean, that the book company was kind of my first real company. And
Yeah.
then when I went with this company, I also asked them, I said, could I get ownership? And they said, yes. They said, if you do well, we give you ownership or you can buy into the company. I'm like, sign me up. And 20 years later, and I built a large organization there and built a huge clientele. And all I did for 20 years was clandestinely pick really wealthy people's brains as I measured them for a custom jacket, a custom pair of pants.
Okay.
And those folks are still friends to
Yeah.
this. So that was 20 years. And I ended up building a big organization, kind of like I did with the book thing, but I did it at the suit thing and retired out of that 14 years ago.
Wow. So, I mean, that gets to the old adage when your parents are saying you are who you hang out with,
Right.
right?
100%.
So, um, that's that's a really cool way of kind of getting the scoop from successful people is to sell to them.
100%.
Okay.
It was,
So,
and that was very, very hard. I want to be super clear. I mean,
sure.
I cold called in the 90s. Think Wall Street. Like I was literally like the stockbrokers. We cold called lawyers and doctors and CEOs. And if I had business cards made up. If I saw really high end Mercedes and Beamers and all that, I had a card made up that said, an automobile of this caliber deserves an impeccably dressed driver. RJ Lowery, haberdasher, and with my phone number and slid it into the car.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just came up with the most creative ways. If I saw the other thing is I look for guys that were tough to fit. So heavy set guy, really muscular guy, really small guy, really tall guy. I'd be standing beside him. And I would literally, if I didn't have appointments, I would go downtown Columbus and I had really nice clothes on at this point. So I was winning. If you sold well, you won nice clothing. I would, I would literally just go to downtown Columbus and walk around the square looking for guys that were oddly shaped or because sometimes the guys that were the best dressed were not the best ones because they were so
Yeah.
particular and they probably had somebody. So I looked for guys and I would look up and I'd say, man, you must have a tough time finding clothes. And they would look
Yeah.
down at, you got to be kidding me. Absolutely. It's the worst thing in the world. And then
Yeah.
I'd walk across the street with them and I'd say, well, I'm actually in the business. No way. Really? What do you do? Blah, blah. What, you have a card? Yeah, I got a card. And they didn't realize that I literally was just walking around the block, like prospecting in downtown
One of your
Columbus
old
around the
friends is
square.
going to hear this and be like, "Wait a minute, that's how I met him. I'm not that oddly shaped."
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the reality, right? So if you're selling and you're truly on like commission, you are kind of always working, no matter what. I mean, if you're at an
Called it
event around strangers, yep,
EYT everywhere you go.
yep,
Just yeah, and that was that led to a great deal of success. That led to a great deal of amazing relationships. Again, some of those clients are still friends to this day. Some of those people, I'm actually on a tour now of those guys from the early 90s that were probably in their 50s or 60s, then who are now in their late 70s, 80s or so. I'm reaching out to these guys that are still alive and trying to get lunch, at least have a phone call and just thank them for pouring into this young suit salesman, right?
yeah.
So
That's a really cool story, RJ. Um, so that was 14 years ago. You left that.
yeah, and that's the next layer of how does one become a business coach. So when I retired out of that and said, okay, what am I gonna do next? I had gotten a 5-year payout, so I had 5 years I got a chunk when I left, and then I had 5 more years. And it was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I started building a practice. Believe it or not, the first part of it did not go very well. My first kind of coaching practice was called Your Expert Image. Honestly, I think it was a horrible idea, but I didn't have anybody tell me that. So I just was plowing forward with, I'm going to coach you on your image. So your expert image. And it was like, I can help you with your online image. I can help you with your wardrobe image. I can help you with your business's image. And it was just fluffy, man. It was fluffy as crap. And it didn't, I mean, I got people to pay me good money and I did some private coaching, did some group coaching, did a seminar. Um, I had an online product. I had a mastermind. I had a couple masterminds and things like that, but it just wasn't anywhere close to the money I had been making. And people were like, dude, you're making waves, man. You got your online this and that and this and the other. I'm like, in 5 months, I haven't made what I made in 1 month. You know what I mean? It was like, it
Yeah.
was, so once again, I really felt like I was failing. And, and then one of my, actually at the time, my biggest account, was a client, a company called Rev Local. It was a little digital marketing agency. They had 10 employees. They had, four salespeople and a sales manager. And they asked me to come in Mondays from 8 to 12. So run the sales meeting and then meet with the salespeople about their goals and their metrics and things like that. Then meet with the sales manager and talk to him about how his team had done, and then meet with the CEO. And after 3 months, and they paid me really good money to do that. And after 3 months of that, they said, "Hey, would you want to come in house?" And I was another year for my next payout, and I was kind of like, you know what, I think that might work out well. And I said, I
Yeah.
didn't want to tell them that it was kind of like we were getting kind of close. I was having to shift things and all that. It was,
Yeah.
and so 10-person company, um, and uh, so I ended up coming in house, got some ownership of the company as well, and they kind of, I didn't care about titles, but just kind of a regional manager role, which the only one at that point. And us and a lot of other really, really good people. We had a successful acquisition 14 months ago. We grew it to 500 employees, 7,000 active clients as a digital marketing agency nationwide. And we got acquired by the big boy in the space, almost a 100-year-old company. And so I had always said I was going to retire when we got acquired, but I stayed longer just for optics sake, and good company and good people, and do the right thing for my clients that were active, especially
Hmm.
my friends and brand clients. And so that has been 14 years. So, but I did tell them that when we got acquired, I was going to relaunch the coaching practice. And so that's been the last year, and it's been an absolute blast because you take the book selling, the
Yeah.
plasma selling, the book selling,
Right.
the the 20 years with the custom clothing folks, and now 14 years helping small businesses with their online presence and finding out their choke points and helping them. It prepared me to be a much more savvy, productive, and successful coach.
Well, you have a right, you have a good, correct mix of different experience. Still sales, um, but different kinds. Um, and in industries where it couldn't be easy. I can't even imagine trying to sell books to people I don't know. And I've been in sales. I think that in fact, I know I was a very good salesman when I was in sales.
Right.
Um, I was the top dog out of 140 my first full years in sales in a company I worked for. Uh, but if you told me I had to go door to door to sell books, boy, oh my God, I don't know. And then uh, s- clothing sales, that can't be easy either. Especially, you're not talking about brick and mortar where people are already coming to you.
Oh,
You're out finding people.
we had no retail store. We went to their
Yeah.
office or home. I used to
And what
tell
year
people
was this?
this was from 1990 to 2011.
Yeah. So pre Amazon and pre everybody on computers buying things.
Correct.
Um, I mean, that model might not work
At
today.
their, I tell people I can meet them at their office, their home, or their jet, whichever they preferred.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was one of my lines that I would say, and people would start laughing. The whole point was like, every now and then a guy would say, okay, let's do the
Yeah.
jet.
Yeah.
Most of them
That's
didn't have one, and they thought it was a kitschy statement, and they got a
sure.
kick out of it. Had a little
Well,
chutzpah.
that's, yeah. So you have that grinder's mentality and the ability to do things like that, you can lead others. Uh, because you've done the hard stuff. Um,
Yeah, that's
which
really, like I say, that's what led me to a year ago, and even today, to the coaching practice. I mean, really, what I do is I help business owners accelerate profits, i.e., make more money, so
Mhm.
that can reclaim time. We do that through automation, delegation. I want them to have more time back, so that we can amplify their impact on their family and their loved ones and their church and their community. So accelerate profits, reclaim time, amplify impact. Actually, the book, there you
There
go.
you go, RJ Lowery.
Incremental
Okay.
changes, exponential growth. somebody wants a copy, they can message me and I can get them a hard copy or I can get them the ebook version. But incremental change,
Available on Amazon?
it is not. It
Okay.
is published, so they would just have to connect with me, and I'll
Okay.
get at least the e-version. If it's somebody local, I'll get them a copy.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that all your links are available in the show notes. So okay, so you are coaching. Now it's not necessarily jujitsu, but you are coaching people in something that's not easy. How do you handle it when people are not coachable or they struggle taking coaching?
Yeah, I try and actually, if I can, I try and weed those folks out in the beginning.
Hmm.
Now, when they were employees, I didn't have really the same right to HR wise. Um, when I think of the last three companies that I was working at, and I was leading people in that way, that was different. But in terms of where they're investing money into themselves by paying me a lot of money, I want to weed that person out. I am looking for people that resonate with my style of coaching, and I like to call it a cheerlead and challenge approach. As I mentioned, I was a collegiate cheerleader. If anybody knows anything about Ohio University in the 80s, our football team sucked. We were like 0 and 10, 1 and 9. I mean, we were horrible. But the marching band was one of the best in the world. It's the most exciting band in the land. I was in the marching band for 5 years. In basketball, we were really, really good. So we had something to cheer about. So I actually cheered
Okay.
collegiately in basketball. But I tell people that I cheerlead and challenge. It's a mix of encouraging them, inspiring them. I do try and do that on the jujitsu mat when we get young guys coming in.
Hmm.
Shouldn't say young guys, young in the sport, or they could be our age or younger. Just encourage them, inspire them, try and get them to come back. You've seen me plenty of times. You do the exact same thing. We just want to get them back. We're spending time with them afterwards, working with them, but then also challenge and really try and draw the best out of them. So short answer is if they're going to be investing a really good money into, especially my private coaching, and if they're not going to be coachable, then I don't want to take their money. That's the short answer. I want to work with people that are okay with making those incremental changes that will lead to that exponential growth. I want people that they want to make more money so that they can delegate things off, so that they don't have to work as many hours, and so that they can be there for their kids' sporting events. My family didn't get to come to many of my events. Grandma was busy, dad was busy, mom wasn't in the picture. And by the way, update on mom, she's one of my best friends in the whole world now. We have this incredible relationship. So I just want to be super clear on that. She's apologized profusely for what she did to me, us, and I've told her I've forgiven her as far as the East is from the West. I've been forgiven. I can forgive her. And she's like, but you don't know what I did, or you don't know the whole story. I'm like, I don't need to. All I know is you're my mom, you're here, and I love you. And we got how many more years? She's 79, right? So, but yeah, I want to work with people that want to they want to take action, and they're willing to invest in themselves and get a coach that's going to hold them accountable with weekly coaching. And then I have a system and software that I bought into that helps take my 40 years of experience of leadership, of sales, of recruiting, of training, and I then work through their biggest choke points. And I've got 40 different levers I can pull, but I have about 12, call my jumpstart 12 that I do. It's the low hanging fruit that I can do with just about everybody. And in many cases, we can get my fees back. And then once we get my fees back by putting systems in place, now they're getting coached for free. It's just a couple of stages, you know. So anyway,
I like it.
that's
Also my mother listens to this podcast, and so she'll resonate with what you just said about your mom. We love you, moms.
And it's funny.
um,
I will be able to help you with your following with at least one person my mom will like and probably share.
that's
So
good.
I don't know.
I
I don't know
love
if
it.
I've got a following. I mean, LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta. We'll see what support we get. But
Yeah.
mom will listen. So
Yeah. The
big mom.
moms are great for that. Um, yeah, she calls me uh almost, weekly with her feedback on the latest episode. Um,
Mine's messaged me while we've been on this. So I hear you.
yeah. So, um, so as far as back on the mats. What are your long-term goals in jiu-jitsu?
Just keep doing it. I don't want to say any belts.
Yeah,
That's not for me to decide. I just want to keep doing it. One of our guys that we roll with, who, he said, and it was great wisdom from. I'm going to give Dylan a shout out. Haven't seen Dylan in a minute. We need to call him. But I want to give Dylan a shout out. He said, RJ, I know there's someday there'll be a day where I can't do this, but today isn't the day. And I'm like,
right,
ooh. I'm like, dude, you're like 30 saying you're dropping gems
right.
like that. I said, I'm stealing that sucker. And
Yeah,
that's one of the things that keeps me going, is because I feel like I'm much closer to that reality than the 30-year-old. Right. We are.
yeah.
But today's not the day. So even if I've even allowed myself now, like, I'm going to allow myself for Fridays, because Friday is the day that I'm toast, man. Those 4 workouts in a row, I am so whipped, but we have the freaking general. Like, we have the general, we have a 3-star general. Like, why would I not want to listen to his wisdom and his knowledge? And when it's not him, it's an alien in Oscar.
Right.
We have
Yeah.
General Farragut and we have Oscar. Like,
Yeah.
so either way, you're going to get some gold. So what I used to allow to be a mulligan, which if I were going to call a mulligan, it was typically on Fridays, about once a month.
Yeah.
And now I feel it. And I'm going to bed going, this is your mulligan, man. You can do it. And I'm like, nope, it's your light day. Just go. And you're allowed to go light. Work with the
Yeah.
new guy, stretch a little bit afterwards. You don't have to go hard. And
Tell
I'm
you
like,
what,
I'm proud of myself that I show up.
I think I
So,
get beat up more by the new guys.
well, that's
Because
why
I,
I don't
I
go to
do
that
that
6 a.m. I
I
don't
I
go.
do that 6 a.m. first and then the 7 a.m.
Oh
And
my
I'll
gosh.
tell you right now that the 7 a.m. is actually physically easier
Oh,
than that 6 a.m.
that's a
And
lion. That's a lion's den in there, man.
well, and that so and if you're listening, the 6 a.m. is a fundamentals class. It's our combative series. So there's 30 techniques. All white belts have to start there, and that's what they go to. And then after that is mixed level or advanced. Um, so it's full of white belts. And then a few stray cats and dogs, blue and purple usually, and it's taught by Matt Wattenberger in the mornings, the ones that we do,
Black
and
belt.
he's amazing. I mean, when he was a brown belt, the first time I rolled with him, I was like, this doesn't even feel like a brown belt. This is a black belt right here that's kicking my ass.
And a great
Um,
teacher. Great teacher.
yeah, he's a phenomenal teacher. He's as good as it gets as far as explaining and breaking things down, especially for the new guys. Um, and I get beat up so much more in that class, and maybe it's because I am a guy with a colored belt, and so they all kind of go harder. Maybe,
But you also got
but
some good, you got some good solid D1 athletes in there too, bro. Like,
yeah,
there's 4, I'm counting at least 4, if not 5, that they either just got done playing college athletics, like Cornell football linemen. Like, I mean,
yeah.
that's a real
He's a
man
big
right
dude.
there.
Yeah. Well, and not just that. I mean, we have guys that are just coming out of the military.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
so there's a lot of horsepower in there. A lot of physical strength, a lot of guys that can high output strong human beings that are learning the technique. And sometimes that hurts worse than the experience, and it's because you don't have to go as hard when you got a little more technique.
I
So
think,
yeah,
I think,
that's
yeah, I think that's one thing I realized about that 7 a.m. I think I talked to Robin about the 6 a.m. and I just said, you know, I'm at a stage in life where I really I'm not going to ever 100% eliminate the chance of the boogeyman, as Mitch calls it. I know I'm in a combat sport, right? But number one, I need from 5:15 to 6:45 to get up, go through my routine and get out. I need an hour and 15 to 20 minutes. So that'd be me getting up at 4 if I want to go to the 6 a.m. class. Number one. Number two is I really do think that it'd be rolling with a lot of much younger, much stronger guys who are less disciplined and less skilled and greater chances for injury. So I just have purposely said I'm not going to do it for those 2 reasons.
yeah. Yeah, I think one of the couple of the reasons why I still do it is number one, at the 7 a.m. sometimes we don't get to live rounds in enough time before I have to get dressed, go to work. And I want to get some live training going, no matter what. Uh, and number two, it's helped my jujitsu, just shoring up holes. Cause I came over from Chitwood. And so there were some holes in my fundamentals game. And Chitwood's great jujitsu. This is not a knock on Chitwood, but they don't have a fundamentals curriculum. They don't have fundamentals classes. So it's all mixed level all the time. So sometimes because they're teaching to the whole room and not to just beginners, sometimes you have guys that get all the way to a blue belt and they're missing some critical details. Um,
Got it.
and
Makes sense.
so I started filling in gaps by going to that. That was my original plan when I was going to go there. I was like, I want to be based in this, in Robin's curriculum. And I want this, these combatives in my tool belt. Um, and then what ended up happening though is, I like the class. I like the people in it. I like the teacher. And so now Matt's got me, he's having me start to, help, I guess is a good way to put it. I'm not teaching the class, but he wants me to start teaching things. And so it's a good way to learn to teach jujitsu. And so like every time I have that thought about, man, I'm getting beat up, especially the Fridays you were talking about, we call it Fight Club Friday in that class. And so we train a lot more time live, and it's a little bit higher intensity. And so sometimes that training tank that I've got by 7 a.m.
Yeah.
on
Well,
Friday,
that's when I want Matt. I
right?
want Friday at 7.
Come find me on Friday right after Fight Club,
I got a greater chance of not dying.
because that's what happens is, especially like, so you come out of that, right? So you're hot, you're sweaty, you're already loose, and then you go and stand, kind of on the wall, and you start going over technique, and my body just like, especially like if the fan's on, oh man, I get so tight, and I'm like, please just let me keep drilling to stay loose.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like, I don't know if my body can, what am I doing? Should I adjust? I don't know. I'll figure it out eventually.
You
Or
know,
something will break.
yeah. So I will tell you, I think there's a couple other principles that for me, I loved. So I've read Hickson's book, Breathe. I read, um, gosh, the guy who just passed away, one of the first Americans to train with the guys out in Southern Cal. He just died of like kidney failure or something like that. Richard, I'm blanking. He was a part of the Gracies in the early in the 80s, and I'm blanking on his name, but just passed away. They actually gave him his coral belt right before he did. Hinner and his brother did. Um, and then loved Tim Kennedy's Scars and Stripes. So like I read a lot on self development and high performance, and but man, I pepper it with military strategy, and I pepper it with jujitsu. When I think of like some of my philosophy, even when I am rolling, so one of the things I like to do a lot is close my eyes. I saw Oscar do that in the early days, and I just was like, why are you closing your eyes, man? And he just said, he said, I feel like I'm taking away one of my advantages. So think of a person who is right. We all know he's blind, so the other senses have to work harder. And so it's a way. So whenever I go with somebody that I have a reasonably good chance of knowing that I've got either a higher weight differential or they're just newer, that sort of thing, is I just close my eyes, and then I just really look for feeling, and I really look for
Mm-hmm.
touch. I really look for connection, and I think that if I don't, yeah, I was gonna say that, but there are so many times where I also have a very curious jujitsu style where if somebody's working something, like I want to stay in that position to see what they're going to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of time, when I was a young, with that wrestling mindset at the beginning was like, ooh, they're grabbing here. I'm going to spaz out and get out of that. Right. I'm going to just use every kind of strength I have, no jujitsu whatsoever, I mean, that's how I jacked up my rib. And I got a variety of things that happen. But now I'm like, when I go with somebody I don't know and there's something advanced, and I'm like, I have no idea where he's going with this. Like, I'm going to let him continue because I'm so intrigued.
I did that with Seth recently. He
Oh,
he went into a berimbolo taking my back, and I knew what he was doing, and I knew that I don't do that, so I don't even know how it feels.
yeah.
And I was, as he was getting that last hook behind my leg to basically seat me into his back mount, I was like already laughing because I was like, that's totally cool.
Awesome.
uh,
Absolutely awesome.
yeah, I'll close my eyes sometimes when I'm rolling, and honestly, I don't think that it really degrades how well I'm doing when I do that. Um, I
No, I've
think,
found that I think it actually, it especially if you do it more and more, I think it actually gives you a superpower.
yeah, yeah. You know what? You're more reliant on connection, and that's what you're after, right? You want that connection
Yeah.
when you're
Aware.
when you're good. Yeah, um, yeah. I think every so often I see clips. There's a couple of blind competitors out there that I think once they make connection, I think they're probably fine. They know where things are
Right.
going. Um,
Right.
you know, you and I have this. We do this race and side control for lapels. We both have. We've. I know that we've both laughed at each other before because it's like a race to get the lapel wrapped before the other guy does. Because it's our old
Absolutely.
man tricks.
Yep.
So,
At
um,
least I'm not wrist locking I don't know. Maybe I should introduce that into my game. I need to start looking for, I do sneaky things with my feet, but I don't do as sneaky things as much with my hands. But I love going with guys that just, every time you turn around, they're finding a wrist lock on you. It's like, what, dude? Like, how did you,
tell you
where
what.
did,
Yeah. I think I'm I'm gonna wrist lock the world when I'm a brown belt is kind of when I've identified. I have an old training partner named Greg. He's a black belt now, but um, every single round, every time I roll with him, he will try to wrist lock me. And
which guy is it?
Greg
Which,
Frangos?
is that the guy with the accent? He's got a
No.
bit of an accent. Oh, okay. Cause there's a guy that, and I can't remember who, either, McLean or Robin said, stop wrist locking like every time. It's like, I can't
Yeah.
think of the guy's name, but they were kind of teasing him because he always, and I went with him, and sure enough, man, I was kind of like watching out
Yeah.
for it. I'm like, and sure enough,
No,
he
this
got me.
was Greg Frangos is at Chitwood.
Okay.
I joke that I was like his pet white belt when he was a brown belt. He would always come and get me because we're both heavyweights. And so yeah, he's beat me up a ton, but almost every time he will get a wrist lock somewhere. And he's a judo guy, so like that's what they do. Um, so and actually when I was a brand new white belt and I was doing Japanese jiu-jitsu, I figured out wrist locks, and I think there was a little bit of, where did I figure out my first wrist locks? I think it was either the Marine Corps or something I learned when I was a kid about just basically bracing behind the elbow and goosenecking somebody's wrist. So when I was a white belt, I was wrist locking all the other white belts all the time. I would like get it like I'd hunt for the Americana, and then especially if my arm was longer, I could basically get their elbow into the crook and then gooseneck them with the same hand. Um, Looking back, I imagine they were probably MFing me behind my back for being that guy. But that's
I would
that's
have been, yeah.
it was a thing that I knew how to do, and I was winning. I was winning in practice. So, um, white belt things. So yeah, um, no, I will break out some of the old man tricks with the white belts when they start actually getting good and they start pushing me.
Yeah.
When they're kind of approaching blue, and now I've got to like really like play a game, and sometimes I gotta resort to treachery to get away from them.
I love it.
So
I,
yeah. Well, I think this might be a good stopping point for this episode. I appreciate you coming on.
yeah. I wanted to say I kind of meant to say it in the beginning, but we dove right in. But I wanted to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you for being a great training partner. Thank you for putting this content out. My goal would certainly be to help you have more people see it. Uh, and also thank you for what you do for We Defy and those athletes. Again, I've got a heart for those that served our nation. I did a year of Air Force ROTC, so that doesn't count. My dad tried to send me down that route because he spent most of his time in the Army, and he's like, you'll get better food, you'll get better housing, you'll make more money, and
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe, you can fly jets.
Yeah.
And I got all the engineers and eggheads in the Air Force, no disrespect meant. And I was like, man, I think if I'd gone Marines or something else, like I probably would have actually done it. And I did 1 year. I didn't quit. I did my year, and then I just be a guy that just supports the military, respects and appreciates coming out of Veterans Day here. So I know I said it to you before, but thanks so much for what you do. Thanks so much for what you do for those that did serve and have served. Anybody that's listening, I'm buddy checking you right now. Hope you're doing well. If you're not, reach out to me, reach out to Matt, um, get help. You're loved. Um, you're respected, and you're valuable, you're worthwhile, and we want you here. And so I would take a phone call from anybody that would want somebody to talk to, and all they got to do is look up Expert Edge Business Coaching as the website. Look up RJ Lowery online. I'm on all the social channels. Hit me up, and I would be willing to chat with anybody. And if somebody owns a business and wants to maybe walk through a few choke points and see if I can support in any way, I'm I'll send people on their way, even if they're not at a spot where they can invest in themselves. I'm at a very good spot in life where I can be a blessing to others, and um, I know I'll be taken care of. God's been really good to me, and I'm very thankful and grateful and blessed. So
All
thanks
right.
again. It's been fun.
Um, and I am going to piggyback because I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the open mat that we had last week. Um, I didn't know what to expect. It was the first We Defy Foundation open mat that I had organized, in a gym that I've been in for less than a year. And it was obviously helpful that Gary Hensley was getting a stripe on his black belt. Um, and when I got up in front of the group, I kind of mind froze, but the gist of what I wanted to get to was, when I came back from Iraq, that's when people started thanking me for my service, and I never knew how to respond. And I know that you'll probably see clips, and if you talk to other veterans, we don't know how to respond to that because we didn't we didn't join for thank yous. We joined for all kinds of other reasons, and a lot of us don't, like you've mentioned in your life, feel like you could have done more. Um, and some of us, feel like we didn't do enough. So when people say thank you, it's a hard thing to reply to. But when I had the whole group um, sitting down after Gary got his stripe, um, I said I'm going to do it the other way around. If you are not a veteran, raise your hand. And it actually blew my mind because 90% of the people that raised their hand were not veterans, which that's normal in like a normal group of, people if you're at a school or something like that. But I figured for a veterans event, I figured it would be more veterans, because, we'd take care of our own. But it was still 90% people that never served. And so um, that was an impactful thing to me because you had all these people there supporting, because Gary's a Marine Corps vet,
Right.
and um, and you had people supporting him whether they were there for his stripe or the open mat. They were supporting veterans, and so I said, "Thank you for being worth it." When you talk about your willingness to go serve, you're serving because the people in your nation and your country are worth serving. So I can't thank the people enough that showed up. and I can't thank you guys enough for donating. We actually so far, and the event is not over until November 30th. You can still donate, and I might throw a QR code or something in the overlay here. Um, but we're one of the top gyms in the country for this open mat event right now, because people have been giving. Um, and so Gracie, Ohio, Chitwood, Ronan, Super System, any of you guys that came to our open mat and trained with us, I don't even care. I mean, I love that you donated. Obviously, that's the important part. That was the goal. But you came and trained with us. You supported it, and I know that I counted probably 5 or 6 different gyms, all in the gym training with us last Friday night. It meant a lot that you showed up, and so thank you. Um, and RJ, you are a fantastic training partner. I enjoy training. It hurts my feelings that you're 60 because you kick my butt. Um, but um, but you are a good training partner. You're doing things the right way, and I look forward to whenever you're on the mats because you're fun to drill with, and you're very good at jujitsu. So I appreciate you, and thank you for taking your time. That I took one of your blocks from your consulting business, and you showed up, and you're giving your time to be on my silly little podcast. So
Good.
I
Well, thanks.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I look forward to listening to further episodes, and certainly encourage people to like and share. I'll say it: if you like this, like, share. When you share, tag somebody, comment. That always adds to the share. You can tell I've got a little digital marketing background, so if
Yeah,
you're going to like it, share, make sure that you also say something when you share. And if you can tag somebody in the comments or tag somebody in your share, that's even better. So I'll be sure to do it when this episode comes out.
I appreciate it, RJ. Thank you again.
Matthew, appreciate you, bro. See ya.
All right, this has been the Still Rolling Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Thanks for coming. New episodes every Tuesday. We're on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks again.